The Treeclimbers project is aiming to understand and to quantify the impact of lianas on the functioning and the carbon cycle of tropical forests. Because we know from recent observations that the amount of lianas, which means the abundance and the biomass of lianas, is increasing in tropical forests in the Amazon. And we expect actually this to have a strong impact on the growth of these forests. So the hypothesis is actually that forests might grow slower and take up less CO2 due to this liana proliferation, and this would have an impact on the climate as well. And so last year, some colleagues in Panama showed for the first time with experimental data that this is indeed true. They did an experiment in forest with and without lianas, and they showed that the forest with lianas is actually growing slower and taking up less CO2. And what we want to do is we want to test if this is true for other forests in the world, and we want to understand how this increased liana proliferation is working. Why are these lianas growing so fast? Why are they able to compete with the trees? And the key thing in our project, in the Treeclimbers project, is that we want to integrate this in a computer model. We want to make a model that simulates how important these lianas are and how strong the impact will be on the CO2 uptake of the forests. What we actually expect, but what still needs to be confirmed, is that these forests on the long term will change their structure. So a forest with a lot of lianas will have relatively more leaves compared to stems. And it is in the woody stems that the long-term CO2 storage is taking place. In addition to this different structure, we also expect a different species composition. So the tree species, which are very diverse in tropical forests, will also change because some tree species are more susceptible for lianas than others. So in the end, you will, within, let's say, 50 years, you will have a different forest composed of different species, and this will for sure have an impact on the growth of this forest and the carbon cycling in the forest. To understand this liana functioning and to be able to build this computer model, we are collecting a lot of field data because in contrast with trees, not a lot of research has been done on lianas. And we are doing actually different types of measurements, going from very simple liana inventories where we just count the number of lianas, measure the diameter of the lianas, to more process-based measurements. We are, for example, measuring the water use of lianas with specialized sensors, which measure how many liters of water are moving through a liana. We are using a 3D scanner to measure the forest structure. And this, for example, we applied in forests in Panama with and without lianas to see how the three-dimensional structure is different in forests with lianas and without lianas. It has always been a neglected group of plant species. Indeed, in the 18th century, there was an extensive work by Charles Darwin who studied what he called the growth and habits of climbing plants, which was a descriptive work of the morphology of these species. But after that, during almost 1 century, there was no important scientific publication on lianas at all. This comic is very interesting for us because it's a very nice way, an original way to bring our research to a broader public. And so now for the Treeclimbers comic, the second episode has just appeared. So now 2 episodes are online. And I already received a lot of feedback from people within my university, but also outside my university that find this a really interesting way to translate research into something which is interesting for a broader public. But also for my own research group, it's a very interesting way to think about our own research, because we communicate with the comic artists and they ask us for feedback, and this actually triggers some discussion within my group because we need to try to find ways to explain what we are doing in a very simple and condensed way, and that is actually a very interesting exercise for us to do.